What's up guys, Bloodshed here. Today we're going to talk about the Witch Doctor Firebat group build, solo build for Diablo 3 Season 9 patch 2.4.3. Now I've been playing a lot of Witch Doctor this season and I get just a crazy amount of questions, so hopefully this video sheds some light on the Witch Doctor, the builds that I use, some tactics, and yeah, let's just get right into it, okay? So first of all, here's the build. This is the group DPS variation of the build. So screenshot it. I might not have time to do Diablo fans links because, you know, it's a new season. We're grinding our butts off. But here it is on the screen. Creeping Death is going to leave our dots on the targets seemingly forever. This is a must-have passive. Confidence Ritual will do 25 damage within 20 yards of the enemy. Must-have. Gruesome Feast is a stacking intelligence buff that's going to give us more mana and more damage overall. And then Pierce the Veil, you do 20% increased damage, but you use 30% more mana. This is amazing setup for groups. Haunt Draining Spirit, Firebat's Cloud of Bats, Severance for the just getting around the map. You know, Witch Doctors are really slow and it's just going to help us get around a lot easier. Languish, lots of survivability there with our 10 stacks of Soul Harvest. Locust Swarm, Cloud of Insects, and then Hex Jinx for the enemies take 15% additional damage. I use this setup when we have somebody to kill the Rift Guardian. When it's just my job exclusively to kill trash, so on like a progressional type Rift, like if we're pushing, or if we have a Gen Monk or a Wizard in the group, they're gonna kill the Rift Guardian. It's my job to kill the trash. So I want to do as much damage as possible. You'll have no problem running 90s with Double Witch Doctor and all that stuff. But one change I like to make is I like to pop Gruesome Feast for Rush of Essence. Okay, so when we're casting Haunt, spamming Haunt over and over again, we're going to be getting 100 mana over 10 seconds. That perfectly synergizes. Every time we cast Haunt, we get 12 mana per second. So this is what I like to run. I can solo kill Rift Guardians. This is pretty much my carry setup. It's pretty much the same thing. I just swap into Rush of Essence, and I know no matter what happens, if the Gen Monk DCs on the Rift Guardian, if the Barb is bad, I can carry the Rift. If I'm playing with players that I know and love and I know they're gonna do their part, then I'll pop over to Gruesome Feast, because Gruesome Feast is more damage, more mana, all that stuff. So this is actually a better for progressional organized setups, right? As far as gear and gems go, we always use the Staff of Cherapetra for our 4-player experience, as far as also Mantle of Channeling, also Ring of Emptiness, and the SWAT combo, Sacred Harvester, Vile Hive, you know, Arakir set, Bakuli Jungle Wraps, and Lakumbas, okay? Lakumbas give you 6% damage reduction for each stack of Soul Harvest you have. Since we're using the Sacred Harvester, we can stack it up to 10 times. That's a 60% damage increase. People ask me, Bloodshed, how do you survive? I'm like, we have a 60% damage increase buff. Also with the 4-piece Arakir set, Hex gains the effect of Toad of Hugeness Rune. After summoning Toad of Hugeness, gain 50% damage reduction and heal, so it's like a heal, 10% of your maximum life per second for 15 seconds. So not only do we have the Lakumbas, we also have the 4-piece bonus, really doing a good job to keep us alive. You want to look for a physical resist on your gear as a secondary if possible. We can only do so much with the drops that we do get, but if you can squeeze out a physical resist, I probably would use it. Bakulis, you don't want to use an ancient Bakulis over a really good rolled non-ancient Bakulis. You want as close to 200% damage as possible. It's really, really good. You want a double crit area damage on both your rings. It's probably not going to happen on Compass Rose. Compass Rose is really crappy, but you want double crit area damage on your gloves. For your weapon, you want damage percent and area damage. For your offhand, you want fire bats and area damage. For your amulet, you want double crit and fire damage. Again, early season, we don't have the best rolls in particular. Your shoulder area damage, your chest piece. You can do reduced damage against elites on your chest piece. On your legs, you know, main stat vitality armor. On your boots, main stat vitality armor, firebat damage. On your helmet, firebat damage. And crit would be better, but we didn't get the lucky rolls on that one, so we're going to be looking for another helmet eventually. For legendary gems, for group progression, you're going to use Teguk, Pain Enhancer, and Bane of the Trapped. Okay, this is for group progressional rifts. If you're running a double Witch Doctor, then you're going to want to take out Taeguk, and you're going to put in Bane of the Stricken so you can kill the Rift Guardian a lot easier. It's going to do 25% increased damage, and it has a stacking, damage increase on the Guardian itself. For the helm slot, you want to use the RCR gem or the reduced resource cost gem, the orange gem in the helmet as well. By the time you start doing serious groups, you should have 2 slots. I would do RCR and area damage depending on what you need more, but those are the first 2 that you're going to want to level. Offense, I would do crit damage for sure. And for core, I would do maximum mana, and I would do movement speed, and then, funnel everything else into intelligence. Okay, let's get into solo builds. Now, if you're like, Blood, it's time for me to push. I want to get on the leaderboard. I'll kind of show you what I use. So here in Season 9, we cleared at 80 a few days ago, and it was pretty easy with the build and currently what I have. So it's a kind of a good stepping stone. You guys can see. Bloodshed had 766 Paragon. You can go view hero details. You can kind of see where my gear was at. I had some non-ancient pieces and, things like that. This is what we collected for this season in particular. So you can go through and look at my build, what I have currently on the leaderboard. But what you'll notice is we took off Convention of Elements, which is a huge damage increase, but we have to sacrifice it for the Unity. We need survivability. And we swapped in a life gem over our RCR gem just to survive, because we're the only one there. We don't have a gen monk, a barb keeping us alive. It's just us now. You head over to your cube and you're going to swap in coils of the spider. That's going to give us 80,000 life on hit, just like that, over Mantle of Channeling. So we lose more damage, even damage reduction, but what we gain is a lot of life per hit. I go to my build, I take off Severance, and I put Jaunt. You can use Severance, right? Severance is going to give you 2 seconds of immunity. Jaunt's going to give you 3. I'm constantly playing with the 2. One good thing about Jaunt is when you're jaunted, you're not targetable by mobs, but you can still actually Firebat the whole time you're jaunted. So that's 3 seconds where they can't hit you, you're hitting them, and you're also life leeching off of them. It's an incredible survivability tool, and I guess we'll get more into tactics later. I also take off Pierce the Veil, and I put Grave Injustice. So when we're killing things around us, we're getting a massive cooldown reduction. That's going to give us more jaunts, more hexes. All of our cooldowns are going to be up by then. I also take off Gruesome Feast, and I put Spirit Vessel, so we have a nice cheat death passive. Sometimes you take just crazy spike damage, unavoidable, and you get killed, and instead of just getting on a death timer, it's better to have a little bit of a safety net here. So this is the solo push Greater Rift build. Again, we just go ahead and swap in Jaunt or Severance if you want, and then we switch our 2 passives up, and this is what it looks like. And then the cube, of course, coils of the first spider, and we pop in Unity over Convention of Elements. Trust me, I wish I could have that too, but Ring of Emptiness is incredible damage increase, and so is the Compass Rose Traveler's Pledge combo, so you can't really sacrifice things there. I won't have time to edit any gameplay into this video, but I'm going to put a link down below in the description to my live stream, and you can even hear live commentary, me answering questions in chat, of just like I'm farming rips for like hours and hours and hours, and you guys can just kind of skim through that, watch the gameplay, watch what I do. But I'll go ahead and cover the tactics in this video. Alright guys, let's talk about like the rotation and what I do typically when I enter the rift, and like what I cast and everything like that. So let's say this is the Greater Rift. We go into the Greater Rift here. The first thing I do is I cast Hex right away, because you want this buff up permanently. This is our like 50% damage reduction. It's also going to give us healing factor on top of that. So with Hex up, I'm going to run through the rift, and I'm probably just going to start dotting creatures. Before I start DPSing, I always hex at least 5 mobs before we start, DPSing the pack down. So let's say this is the pack right here. The Z-Monk and the Z-Barb's gathering things together, and I'm just kind of hitting them with a few haunts before I go in. You can't be the first one to go in. You're going to get destroyed. So you just kind of like hang back, and you always let everyone stay in front of you for the most part. As I'm going in, if Hex is still off cooldown, I'll cast it again on the pack. I'll run in and I'll cast Locust Swarm like on the elite pack, because you need to have them, infected by your spells by Haunt and Locust Swarm at all times. So we know there's enough Haunts by the time we go in the pack. We don't have to even worry about Haunt for a while, right? Because we're casting it as we're running in, as they're getting things prepped. And then, we cast the Hex. I like to cast Locust Swarm over the elite pack, but if it's just a trash burn, you can cast it over the pack. and then you either walk in because the collision damage might stop you, or you severance in and you hold down Firebat and profit. And as you start to kill things, you might see Oculus Ring procs on the ground from the supports, and you can kind of, you know, force move, slowly kind of work your way over toward the Oculus Ring. You're going to get a nice multiplicative damage bonus when you do so. You also want to, when I'm here casting, I'll hit Soul Harvest right when I get into the pack, because it'll give you that nice damage reduction bonus, and it doesn't break your cast. So you can be casting, you can cast Soul Harvest, and you can cast Jaunt as well, like we talked about, and you're not targetable during this time, and you're still doing lots of damage. So even sometimes, like let's say the pack has Grotesque Explosion, I'll save Spirit Walk for that. Let's say it has like Fear mechanic, and you don't want to get Fear during your fire cycle, because especially in groups, like that's just a huge damage increase. So you can see I'm on cold right now, so if I'm DPSing, I know I'm on fire. I might jaunt preemptively just so I'm not targetable during that time. I want to maximize the crazy output of Convention of Elements. You should never really have to reapply your haunts, but I'll do it sometimes, especially if I'm using the Rush of Essence passive, because it's over 10 seconds, so I know I'm going to get mana back on return over 10 seconds. Haunt is 50 mana, I get 100 back, so if I'm casting 5 haunts, I'm getting way more return on my investment, and my mana is going to be on fire, right? So it's going to be regenerating like crazy. Legendary potions aren't that big of a deal, but I do like the life on hit potion. Since we're fire batting, we're spinning like crazy. You know, Pain Enhancer is going to give us attack speed for every enemy bleeding within 20 yards. So we're going to be hitting so crazy, like the life on hit potion seems really, really good. So now that you know the rotation is basically like keep all of your buffs up like Hex. You want a 10 stack of Soul Harvest. You want to keep both poisons or diseases on the target. And yeah, you pretty much hold down Firebat. You just pretty much keep everything up with this build. Make sure you keep everything active. And when you're traveling from pack to pack, you should be the last one to leave, because as they're running to look for the next monster pack, they're turning corners, they're kind of pulling the aggro, they're kind of creating holes and lanes for you to run. And you don't want to hit Severance. Severance is your big kind of speed burst. You don't want to hit that until the last possible second before you're going to get hurt. Or if you know you can hit the Sanctuary. So there's a little Sank over here, you can hit it because you'll make it. You can kind of learn, like you're trying to dodging mobs, and you don't want to just Severance right away. I like to save Severance for the last possible second so I can get maximum distance to get where I need to get and start DPSing, right? That's why it's important for the Barb and the Monk to just run through the rift, leave you behind, do their thing, and you're just trailing behind, waiting for the next moment to get to the next pack to start DPSing. Things to look out for would be, like, if you find yourself dying too much, make sure you have your Hex buff. Like, it's easy to forget that your Hex falls off. It's just a toad. There's no like timer anywhere. So just make sure you have Hex up the entire time. That's a 50% damage reduction. It's basically like an active unity that you have to cast at all times. So just make sure your Hex is up. You also want to make sure you have a 10 stack of Soul Harvest at all times if possible. We're wearing Lakumbas, so with 10 stacks, again, we're getting that 60% damage reduction. It's literally incredible. But Spirit Walk is your friend, man. Learn to use Spirit Walk. Learn, looks like Perdition's gonna jump on you, Spirit Walk. It looks like, you know, Blood Maw is gonna trample you, Spirit Walk. You really kind of get used to using Spirit Walk as your saving grace. You know, Gen Monks can't stay there. They have to leave a lot of times. We can sit there and DPS consistently, and it's a lot tankier than you realize. I think you guys will get better and better the more you practice. Especially in a group setting, you get the 10% increased armor for Tega. There's lots of things keeping us alive, so you just have to kind of keep an eye out for that. If you're solo, one of the best strategies you can do, like just to initiate a fight, is to literally like hex the enemies, and they're like little hexed creatures, and you port on top of them and start DPSing, right? So like when they're hexed, like they can't do any damage to you, so you can almost use it as a defensive ability. And also, like, you have Graven Justice, so you can see that they're hexed, you sit on top of them, and they're almost like body blocking for you. It's a really good tactic. Get in and get out over and over again, right? I hope this video helped you understand a little bit more of the builds that I use and alleviates some of your questions. If you have anything that you want to add or anything that you do differently, feel free to put it down below. I'm sure it'll help the community out. Just please be respectful of everyone's opinions. You know, it's Diablo, everyone's a build creator, like a movie critic, but this is what I do and I find it very effective for me. Big shout out to my patrons out there. I appreciate you guys. Big shout out to my Twitch subs, of course, you guys are out there. Some of you guys are both, and I thank you for that. Catch me at twitch.tv/bloodshed. We're streaming there all season long. And yeah, this is the Bloodshed, and I'm out of here. Peace.